The United States, as many of you might know, is at the top of the world in terms of incarceration, both in terms of incarceration rate and the total number of people incarcerated. Incarcerated people experience surveillance when they're incarcerated, especially when using communication tools to talk to their family or friends. And prisons and jails around the U.S. are increasingly using surveillance technology to monitor this communication. And although the described purpose of this surveillance is safety, as is the justification for most forms of surveillance, we need to consider its potential harms. Racism within the U.S. carceral system means there are disparities in terms of who is surveilled in the first place. And the families of incarcerated people have to undergo surveillance to communicate with them, so there's no real notion of consent.
It's not just incarcerated whose privacy rights are breached or invaded when it comes to these communications platforms. There are other individuals whose rights are also impacted, folks who deserve their privacy rights to be protected. Just because they have loved ones who are incarcerated doesn't mean that they also give up their own privacy rights when it comes to using these comms platform.
And a lot of the concerns that we have around this is the lack of accountability. One of the issues that are coming up that we see is automated intelligence being used now to scam phone calls of prisoners for certain keywords and for certain phrases in order to catch quote unquote criminal acts. And these are extremely troubling issues. Artificial intelligence is unaccountable in a lot of ways, but we know that facial recognition systems are discriminatory. They have a very high error rate for minorities. A lot of these systems were based on binary, so men and women, and all of these systems do not capture non-binary individuals or trans individuals. One of the issues that we deal with a lot is just kind of technology outracing regulation. These systems on their own, without regulation, tend to have issues around accountability and also accuracy.
Health tech and the adoption of telemedicine and remote access to care accelerated during the pandemic and can really be incredibly important to medically underserved communities who have a more difficult time accessing healthcare. But at the same time, being really aware of the privacy concerns that are, tend to drive distrust with the healthcare system and use of this kind of technology. We all think of HIPAA as the sort of general regulation around health privacy. And one of the big problems is technology that now enables consumers to download their health records to their phone. That data is no longer protected by HIPAA. Once you download that to your phone, all bets are off. Every year you have to sign a HIPAA policy. What that actually means is really, really confusing. How can we make that all more understandable?